everybody, it's Carrie and welcome back to another video. You guys already know your girl is rocking the hoodie beanie combo. We're just accepting the beanie at this point until it warms up and I can shave my head and pull a Britney Spears on everybody. So if you guys don't know me, my name is Carrie. I run Traveling Pony Studios, which is a small little crochet business that I started in 2023 to help pay for my horse's medical expenses. Never ending, guys. Literally, when I'm recording this, my vet is coming out next week. Like, she was literally here like 3 weeks ago. And my horse just got his shoes done. Oh, yeah, and I need to order supplements. Oh, yeah. I have been running this little crochet business for 1.5 years, but I would say truthfully a full year. And if you guys have not watched the video, feel free to look at my 2024 crochet business overview. I went into like the numbers type of stuff, and I feel like somewhere on the channel I've definitely done a video about like what got me into crocheting, all those good things. If you guys want to brushing up on the lore a little bit, feel free to look through my channel. I've got market overviews, I've got like crochet in a week videos, I've got so much stuff. But one of the goals in 2025 is to have more content like this where I can sit down and kind of tell you guys about my experiences. I, of course, have not been doing this like forever, but I feel like my short time in this world, I have definitely done a lot in 1.5 years that I really had no intention to ever do, but I did because your girl has impulse, and I'm not a person at all who sits down and is like, maybe I shouldn't do this. I'm like, oh, girl, clear the way, busting through, I'm making my scene. Like, that's me, I can't help it. But in today's video, I get asked all the time about my experiences with stores. So I think this is gonna be part 1 of 2. Where the second video, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about maybe my experiences, or if you guys have very specific questions. But in today's video, I'm just gonna treat it as kind of broad overall steps in getting into stores. If you guys don't know, I am in, or was, in 2024, I was in 4 stores. Do I recommend for most people to be in 4 separate stores? No. But like I said, I'm an extremely impulsive person. I have been a people pleaser my whole life. I'm working on it. I'm learning how to say no. So even if I got into situations where I'd have like a little bit of doubt or a little bit of like, girl, maybe you should like sit back and think about this. Every other side of my body is just like, go for it, go ham. Because I'm always worried like if I don't do something, the opportunity will kind of disappear, and I definitely don't want that because that's just like not me. So I feel like I have definitely experienced things. Would definitely say 4 stores. I don't think anyone should really do that unless maybe if you're crocheting full-time. But then at the same time, I feel like if you're crocheting full-time, you can do so much more and probably do better things than to go this particular route. A bit of a disclaimer, because I don't really know what all I'm gonna say. I did write some stuff down to help me out so I don't go on la la land. But I should say that while my experiences towards stores, some people might be like, wow, you sound kind of negative towards them. I am not. I think my expectations are very realistic now. When I started out, I had this like, oh my god, it's gonna be amazing. My experiences and like expectations are like much lower, and I feel like in general I don't really think it is the store's fault for any of these numbers or any of my experiences, or maybe like kind of how I was disappointed in some regards. I think it's just the culture nowadays. Like, so many people do so much online shopping now. I mean, I feel like when I was Christmas shopping this past year, I did very little in-person shopping. The only real in-person shopping that I actually did was I had gone to a convention and I had bought like trinkets and prints and stuff. But besides that, all of my other shopping was completely done online. Part of me just doesn't know if we're getting into this kind of like world where in-person shopping is really not that big of a thing unless like it's a holiday season or something, but I just don't think that the average person really goes and shops in person anymore. I feel like that has also been something that I learned. Like, a lot of people when I was getting ready to do these stores messaged me and they're like, hey, I don't really think you should go this route just because of that aspect. Or like, I feel like it would be a lot better for you to spend the time and energy either doing markets or trying to build your social media and getting like an online store going. And at first I was like, what are these people, what are they talking about? Like, now after doing it, I would say I do tend to agree. I think one store is fine, and I think if you want to do it for experience, perfect. But for me, it's not really gonna fit in my business model anymore. And I feel like everyone had said to me before, my time would be better spent trying to build my business for the long term on online sales, social media, some markets. Like, my turnaround in markets are so much better. So it is what it is. But I do have some general stuff for you guys. Like, scripting 2 videos in a row. Who is she? I just wrote down some simple things so I don't forget. So if I look down, I'm looking at my notes because I'll be here for an hour if I don't look at some type of guidance, because I'll go talk about like whatever something happened to me like 10 years ago. I'll go on a whole tangent, y'all. If you've been here a while, you know that's like my job. I did my main question as, so you are interested in trying to branch your business out and have your products in stores. Is it worth it? That question and that answer is going to be completely dependent upon person. I don't think any single person is going to have the same answer, nor do I think it would be the same thing with markets. Like, look at all the times you go to a market, maybe you don't do good. Your friend can go to that same market, maybe they do amazing. I think that same mindset can carry over to stores. Everybody's gonna have a different experience. Everybody's gonna have a different thought. Everybody might have also different expectations. Like, my expectations might not be the same as someone else, and they might be super happy. It's a very broad thing, but I would definitely say, as I read through some of these things, I do have some questions that you can kind of ask yourself. And I feel like if you're considering doing stores, you should definitely take some time and reflect upon it before you jump into it, because typically you're going to be on a contract, so that's also something to consider. So the main question that I get asked when people hear that I do stores, or even on YouTube, is how did I find stores? How did I kind of get that connection? What I would say is, before doing the stores and everything, I was doing markets, of course. You know, I did farmers markets to start off with. That's what I did in 2023. My first official market was November of 2023. So I did one market. I took a break. March, I did a super small like market. I don't even consider it a market. It was just popping up a tent at somebody's insurance event. I didn't really do the information, like I didn't spend any time checking that one out for that market. And then I did a few more markets throughout the years that were like legit markets. By the time I first got into the store, I had done probably 3 or 4 larger markets. So I had kind of established my brand. I had this YouTube channel. I was posting on social media and doing all that type of stuff. So it wasn't like I just showed up one day. I had a brand established. I had met some connections and had also just gone to some of these stores that I was kind of interested in to like look around. I had followed their social medias. I was really just like on top of trying to be a presence, even though I wasn't really on their radar yet. One of the first things I did was I looked up just small towns around me, and I took advantage of that. Like, there's a lot of kind of small towns where I live where they'll have like their own downtown area where it will be like boutiques or stores, other small businesses, restaurants, all in kind of like one area. Maybe, I don't want to say not like a community center, because it's definitely not, but like kind of like that vibe where it's like this place where there's usually a park, whatever, there's lots of restaurants, there's other small businesses. I didn't have any connections to these people, but I did go through quite a few towns, and I would look up the information and find boutiques, small businesses that kind of I thought I might fit in. And I ended up going through like their websites and everything, finding their information and just sending a very brief email. I would basically say like, introduce myself, talk about my crochet, say like, this is why I crochet, da 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 da. I would say this is what I'm kind of looking for, and see if they're even potentially interested, because not all of these stores were like maker type of stores. They were just kind of boutiques, and sometimes you'll have boutiques that just kind of have like some small business things in them. So that's kind of what I did. But I would say I got denied, or like did not get replied to by a lot. There were probably like every 10 stores I contacted, one of them would reply, and a lot of times the reply was like, a deny, like, hey, we don't do that, we just do wholesale. It's like, okay, that's great. But that's one of the things I started out doing, and honestly one of the stores that I did end up signing on later on was a store that I had contacted, and they had remembered me from my original pitch. So that's definitely something I would consider doing as well. I did join a lot of Facebook groups, and when I say Facebook groups, I'm not talking about, like, for me in particular, there's like a Georgia crafting or Georgia vendor group that you can join, and it's just like, you know, lots of Georgia vendors. I was talking about, like, they kind of have these like small community Facebook groups and kind of Facebook groups for your hometown or your town, whatever. So I would join these groups, and this is also, I get asked all the time about customs. I sometimes get customs through those Facebook groups by posting. A lot of the groups I'm part of will have like a rule that like Wednesday or Saturdays, small businesses can post ads from this time to this time for free. So I take advantage of that when I have time. This time of year, I might start doing a few more posts, but like I kind of did like some posts in the group in November, got some customs off of it, and then I didn't post like anything in December because I didn't want to go crazy or anything. But that's a way that I've gotten sales or customs. You just have to make certain you're on the right Facebook groups and that you also don't break any rules, and you don't want to go in Facebook groups where it's just like legit everyone's posting that they got some type of service, because nobody's paying attention to that. Like, nobody is. I would go on these Facebook like community groups, and I would just make super simple posts. I would say, hey, like, I'm trying to find a store that would potentially consider having like a vendor. I would include photos of myself with like my booth or pictures of my products that I feel like really stood out. Same thing, just like with the email, I would include like information about myself, why I crochet, the whole 9 yards. And that's how I got a lot of recommendations for places. Like, people would tag people in the comments of like potential stores, people they would know. And I did have a lot of people reach out to me. Not every store was like the perfect fit. Not everybody who was tagged was like the perfect situation, nor did they want me, or like some places that I got recommended were like an hour away, way too far of a drive. But I did get a lot of recommendations that I did go to in the end and kind of reach out and then either met with and then didn't like the whole setup or signed on with. As well, one of the things that we have in Georgia, like in my local community, is there is somebody who runs a group, kind of like crafty people, and you pay a membership to be a part of this group. I am part of the group, although I don't take advantage of it very much. Like, I guess this year, since I pay for it, I should take advantage of it. But one of the things is I was also able to meet the person who runs the group. She comes to a lot of markets. I see her all the time. And because of that, when there would be openings at stores or whatever, because she had seen the quality of my work, had seen it in person, and had met me, she would then recommend me to some of these stores. So I got connections that way as well. If you find a potential store and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go meet this person, I'm gonna go talk them, see what we got, always bring products. I was never specifically asked to bring any of my crochet items. Like, nobody ever said that. It was just always like, oh, come meet me and let's see how we get along, all that type stuff. Never once did anyone ask to actually see my product in person, but I always brought product. Like, I don't think any store I went to, even if I didn't like know I wanted to be there or like any of that stuff, I always brought items with me. I cannot stress that enough. I would say when picking out items, like, I would have either some of my really fancy items, which at the time I didn't have all of these guys, but I definitely brought like some items that I knew if they went to markets, it would really grab people's attention and kind of show my skill. So I'd bring higher end items that were really complicated. And then at the same time, I would bring bottom items. So typically for stores, I would bring items between 12, which is kind of my cheapest item at markets, is about that $12 range. So I'd bring $12 items all the way up to like kind of 40. I would bring some 50 or 65 items, but it was always hard because then, you know, people would like absolutely fall in love with it, and I would have to explain to them like, I don't think you're gonna be able to carry it in stores, which I'll explain later on why that would be the case. But I highly recommend bringing variety. Nobody can see like your plushies truly what they're worth unless you see them in person and also feeling them, because once people kind of touch your plushies, just like, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, when I do markets, every single person in the world has to touch my plushies. I don't like, even adults, like, I'll have drive-by touches, like they're not even interested in the product, but they just gotta touch it, and I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand this. I feel like that's also a big thing. Letting them touch it, letting them feel the quality of yarn. Because you guys know I also do some flower work. I would also bring flowers with me as well, just so they could see the variety in my work and all the things they could potentially carry if I agree to do it. So your products have passed the mark, you're feeling the vibes, everything seems to be going all right. Now, here's where the fun stuff starts to get in. I feel like the finding things, meeting them, all that type of stuff is great until the money talk comes into play. So one of the big things that is very important to keep in mind is most of these stores are going to charge you a rent plus commission plus credit card, or they're going to charge you commission plus credit card. That's pretty much how it goes. Now, when you have these stores that do a rent commission, typically their commission is going to be lower than a store that does not charge rent and only charges commission. Personally, I have experience with and have also seen rent vary from like $65 for a very small wall space all the way up to $300 for like a shelf or a bookshelf type thing. So it's honestly gonna vary between stores, locations, how people want to run their business. And then on the commission side of it, for places that I like have had to pay a rent, I have had my commission be as low as 15%. I have had the commission be 30%. And I have also had other places and have seen other places that do not do rent charge anywhere from 40 to 50% commission on each item. There's a lot of factors that doing stores, like I didn't really sit down and think about this, and if you watched my 2024 overview, then you would actually know that my numbers from stores really were not that good. Even with factoring in the commission side of it and adding commission onto my items, the rent, commission fees, all that type of stuff would end up taking so much money. Like there were some stores that I was losing 55% on, and I actually lost more money than I made. To me, I have heard the argument where people are like, well, if you let them take a higher commission and the rent, or you let them take rent and commission, isn't it the same as going to a market? In my mind, no. I feel like when I go to markets, if I do my job correctly and finding appropriate markets that fit with the crochet and everything, I'm fairly confident that I can make a certain amount of money. Like I'm pretty confident in my items now that I can hit a threshold. Once I hit the fee for the event, I'm done. Like that's that. And then after that, I don't have commissions that I'm necessarily paying for. I just have my base price and then adding tax and everything. I end up walking out with so much more money and not losing money at markets than I do at stores. It's honestly crazy how much money I lost at stores. Like I'm still pretty shocked by it. I definitely was like, whoa, whoa. I don't really need to be doing this anymore because I lost a lot of money. I think if you're somebody who is doing like a business where maybe you're doing stationery, you're having stickers, you're having all of these things where you can kind of set your profit margins up to still make like a good amount of money, and it's not including time, labor, because you know probably you're getting items manufactured. I feel like stores and stuff could be really good. Like I know a lot of people who have manufactured items that do stores, and they do really well because they're not personally doing like the labor and they can take the loss. Personally, I can't take the loss. I need to make whatever I need to make. Like if I have a $12 item, I need to make $12 because if we're being truthfully honest, sometimes even some of my items are underpriced and I know I should charge a little bit more for particular ones. When people are like, well, you should be okay with losing money on it, I'm like, no, I can't be, because like this is not manufactured. Literally everything is handmade. The only things that I guess you could say I get manufactured would be the safety eyes or like the polyfill, because I can't make that myself, but like the items itself is not manufactured. Literally, I need to get that full amount of money and I need to walk out with as much as money as possible. And I could rant about this all day, but I'm not going to. But commission and rent fees, like I said, it's going to vary drastically change between businesses, just how someone wants to run their business, if they want rent, if they want higher commission, whatever. And then location, like a store that maybe is not in the most poppin' part of town probably is gonna be a little bit cheaper, but then at the same time you're taking on that aspect of, well, it's not in a super busy part of town, you're probably not gonna have a lot of foot traffic. And then versus if you're in a place with like prime location, of course they're gonna be higher. It's the same concept as a market. The same type of rules in that regard is gonna apply to this. So before agreeing to doing a store, ask yourself some of these questions, because I really wish I had asked myself these questions and had actually truthfully answered them and had really thought about it. Because like I said, I was like, oh, okay, I'm done. Like, sign me the papers. Zero thoughts in this head, guys. So the first one, like, I really think applies to me in particular. I feel like would apply to a lot of people as well, is do you have time? Like, that is such a big aspect of this, and something that I honestly struggled with a lot. And I think that was also just because of having 4 stores and doing markets at the same times and doing customs and still running another full-time business that takes up a lot of time out of my day. The timing thing was big. And not just the timing thing, I would say, in regards to actually making the items, upkeeping the items. You have to think, you know, store is going to be totally separate from market. So if you're really struggling to even make enough product for markets, do I think you should do a store? I don't know. I think you should really ask yourself, because that's another stress. Store people want product. If they sell out of something, they want the product like turn around quick. I mean, they've got their own separate business they're running. You have to be able to keep up with the demand. For me in particular, even just not thinking about the product side of it, you have to think about driving to these stores, dropping products off. Sometimes I would do 1 drive out to a store every 2 weeks. Other times I was driving 2 or 3 times out a week to a store. Distance. Not every store is close. I had some stores that were 15 minutes away. I had other stores that were an hour away. If I'm driving to these stores once a week, automatically there's 2 hours out of my day that's just shoop, gone, and I need every hour and minute I can get if I want to survive. The second one I would ask myself is, do the numbers make sense where I think I will actually profit? And this is, like I said, in regards to commissions, rents, I can charge for my items, all of that good stuff. Number 3, I wish I had really focused on this one too, is the location of the stores and how much foot traffic was in the stores. Also the staff interactions. How were the staff? Were they friendly? Did they really come off as like somebody who was really interested in your product, really liked your product? And then of course foot traffic and location. Like, I definitely signed up for some stores that I didn't like really think about super well. I did the same thing last year with markets too, where I didn't take into full consideration like location. And so I kind of got screwed over because I would choose these places that really did not have like a good location. It was kind of like one of the ones that I ended up leaving was in this kind of like almost semi abandoned lot. Like, there were still a few stores, but it was like this store, Dollar Tree, and like a shoe store. All of the other stores were closed. Okay, and it was not like in a super accessible area. Like, nobody was just going for a walk in this area of town. Of course, foot traffic also wasn't that great. And like I said, going back to my earlier point, foot traffic in general in stores kind of And so there were a lot of times where I was like, oh, but I'm coming out at a weird time, lunchtime. I'm coming out at a weird time on the weekend. I bet there's a lot more people. Spoiler alert. No. There's only one store I'm in, and that's the store that I'm continuing on with. It has really good foot traffic. And that's because it's like prime in a good spot. There's tons of people who walk around. The people there are super nice. Like, it's just the vibe is completely different. And it is a store, but it kind of feels like a mini little family there. I think that's another question you should really ask yourself, is the location. Is there a lot of stores open around? Do you see a lot of people walking around? Like, is it a place where people just kind of go and hang out, or is it just somewhere that people come and maybe shop and maybe go to the shoe store? I know Dollar Tree next to it. And another one that I would ask yourself, and this is the last one for this point, is, are you ready to commit to something for 6 months or potentially longer? All of these stores work typically on a contract basis. Your contract is typically going to be 6 months. I have seen contracts, and I've signed a contract that was for a year with a particular store, and I did get through breaking that contract. I don't think I ever talked about my experience with that particular store, but I had signed up for another store. It was supposed to be a year-long contract, and girl, I flipped my actual effing lid. And I don't get mad very often. Like, I'm a very even person. It takes a lot to get me going, because they had Temu resellers there, and they were claiming to be a handmade type of store. They were gonna put me right next to the Temu resellers, and I was like, girl, I'm literally gonna... I have never sent so many angry emails in my life and have made so many phone calls. Like, I was losing it. And they were telling me I couldn't break the contract, and I literally pulled up their contract, copy and pasted it, and was like, tell me where it says I can't do this. Long story short, I broke the contract because I think I was so freaking annoying and so pissed off that they were just like, get her out. She's crazy. I think that you really need to ask yourself, are you ready to commit to something for 6 months? Like, you could literally sign the contract, put yourself in the store, and you could be losing money. Like, are you comfortable losing money? Because there is zero guarantee, and you could lose money for 6 months. And the thing is, you could be losing money. Your product's at the store, sitting at the store, not moving, and you could have that product with you, take it to a market, and sell it. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of factors of this that I think really need to be like thought about. But definitely, are you willing to do a 6-month contract, 12-month contract that you really can't get out of? Because some of these contracts are quite extensive and they're quite lengthy. And if you do terminate your contract, typically you're expected to pay all 6 months and not get the money back. There's that factor as well. Now, if you're like, girl, I feel like I can do it. Like, girl, sign me up. Give me the papers. Let me give you the deposit. Like, all that type of stuff. You're like, we're good. Now you've signed up for the store. What is the next step? So some stores will have a very set up location for you to have your items, or they'll have like a shelf, a bin, whatnot. I've had stores that I've been given like a little basket and a little tiny little spot. That's where my products go. I've also had other stores, which I would say more so other stores, like three out of 4 that I have had to personally purchase all of the setups. So for one stores, that was like these shelves that you guys see behind me, baskets, frames for branding and everything. Another store, it was buying bookshelves, more branding. So I would typically think that you're probably, if you're gonna have to buy stuff, I feel like per store I ended up spending about $100 to $300 just to get products to set up the store. And of course, you're gonna be like me if you end up not wanting to do the stores anymore, stuck with it all, because I can use these shelves, but I can't use the baskets or hanging baskets. And then these other stores, I'm gonna have all these big bookshelves, and I don't got nowhere to put a big bookshelf. So I'm gonna have to figure out what in the world I'm doing with that. So that's another thing you gotta think about. And like I said, some stores will have set areas, but don't count on a store. And I think if you're gonna go look at a store and you like something, very clearly ask that up front, so you're not like, oh, what, I have to go spend all this money? Because a lot of times they also don't want you to buy like a cheap setup either, because it's a reflection of their store. They want something that fits in with the whole store. So that's another thing to think about. One of the things I recommend, and let me grab it real quick for y'all. When I decided to do stores, I ended up getting these little tags made. So it has my name on it. The back has my QR code to take people to my social medias. And then it also has some simple care instructions that basically say hand wash only, do not wring out water, and lay out to air dry. So if you're gonna do stores, I would highly recommend getting special tags or some type of tag made for your items to tag them, because typically, like you'll see, I left the top area blank, of course, because that's where, oh, you like how my camera doesn't want to focus on it now? Cute. But I left the top area blank, that way they could put their little SKU code or whatever for scanning. But I would highly recommend getting something made. First of all, it has your branding on it. Second of all, it has instructions. When I do markets, I of course have business cards, and I also have my care guide that people get when they purchase an item. I of course can't do that at stores. I don't expect people to do that at stores, and they won't do that at stores. They're not gonna do that. I mean, half the time, people won't even let me put out business cards because they don't want any of the sales to be deterred from the store. So having the tags branded and everything seems to be universally okay. And it also has the instructions, so it kind of covers my basis of what I would do at a market and the experience that I would give somebody. And as for item count, this is going to drastically vary on the size that you are allowed, like how much space do you have for your setup, as well as how much product you have to potentially spare. And of course, one of the big things is once you start off with a certain amount of product or certain items, you need to be able to carry those continuously through. You don't want to bring a ton of product when you first start and then a month later or however long, if it sells, you can't replenish it right away. I think it's very good to be realistic about your ability to create things. I think it's a lot easier to potentially add things as time goes opposed to take things away, because yes, stores are expecting you to carry so much of one item to continue it, because they might have people who want to come back for that particular item and they're going to say, oh, well, she'll bring them by maybe like next week or 2 weeks. We can reach out to you. If you never bring them by, they're not going to be very happy about that. So you need to be realistic about what you can bring in. I personally always bring in one of my larger items. When I do stores, I only bring items that fall between the 12 to 35 range at one store. Another store is 12 to 25 range. Like those are the only items that I'll bring to the store. So typically like a $25 item, I would bring one of. Example would be like when I used to bring the loaf cats, I would bring one loaf cat. Versus the middle-sized items, which for me would be the $15 to $18 items. This might include the squids. This would include things like turtles, even though they're 20, turtles, the manatees, sharks, mallards, chicks, roosters. $15 would be like tigers, elephants, pandas, yodas. So all of those guys, I would bring 2 of each. And then the one I would bring the most of is typically my $12 items. I'll bring anywhere from 3 to 4. That would be possums, hippos, leggy frogs, pop-up mushrooms, anything like that. Whales, stingrays, I'll bring 3 to 4 of. Now let's talk pricing. Well, my least favorite part of this all, and the part that really screws everyone over. So depending upon the source, this is typically how I would price my item. I do market price, so this would be the price that I would sell an item for on my website, or what I would sell an item for in person at a market, plus the commission price or the commission percentage, and then plus if I have to pay credit card fees. Some stores will cover credit card fees, some stores will not cover credit card fees. I had one store that was like, well, if they pay in cash, we won't charge you for the fee. But if they pay credit card, we will charge you for the fee. So you might as well just factor those like 3 or 4% into your price. Versus other stores will say that they put the credit card fee into their commission. So another thing that would be really good for you to clarify when looking at stores, does their commission price include credit card fee? You might say that the commission is 30%. You might calculate your price to 30% commission, and then you end up getting 4% more or 3% more added on. You're losing money because the credit card fee is going to dip into your base price, and it's a lot harder to change prices once you have an item at a store and it's in their computer system than it is to just like factor everything in general. And the reason why I say I only bring certain size prices or priced items is because of this factor. I can't bring a $50 item to a store and feel good about it, because by the time the commissions are added and by the time all the fees are added, I'm looking at like a $50 item almost being 70 something dollars. Like it's crazy. So I always focus on small items. 12, 15, 18, 20, 25 is my most, and I only bring a few of them. They don't sell super frequently because I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say the $25 end up being like 35, 38, somewhere in that range. So a huge markup than what I would typically do at my store or markets. Definitely smaller items are the way to go if you're doing it correctly, and I really think that if you're selling your handmade items, you should cover your base price. I don't think anyone should take a loss just to be at a store and just to sell things. I'm a very firm believer, like I do not discount things. I do not negotiate things when I'm at markets. Like I have my set price. If you're not willing to give me my set price, you can move on. I just have a lot of respect for myself and a lot of respect for what I make. I feel like once you do it once, you have to do it for everybody, and it's always gonna be there in the back of my head. Now I will say, when I've had older items that maybe aren't up to par, I have discounted those, but like on a normal day, no. I'm very firm in believing that people should get what they should earn, and you shouldn't take a loss just to take a loss to have an opportunity. It's not anything that I truly believe in. An example of this would be, if I got my math right, don't quote me on this, I'm not very good at math and I didn't have any of my numbers in front of me. If I have a $12 item, I would be adding a 30% commission, and one of the commissions has the credit card fees rolled in, and then I would typically take that $12 item, and if I was at a store, I would sell for $17. That's what I'm saying. It's something to factor in, is this markup when you have commissions. Be realistic about what you can bring. Be realistic about what people are willing to spend. I mean, I'm blown away sometimes what people are willing to spend in stores, but if I were to bring those same items, price it for the same amount of money and take it to a market, you would think I had hurt somebody. Let that sit in. But I feel like that's pretty much everything I have to say about this. Like, I feel like once you have your money side figured out, then you sign the contract, you're in the store, and then you just have to see how things go. I think communication's really important with stores. I would say that communication, I think, is the hardest aspect that I've had with stores, because I think that communication can very much vary between stores. So what I would expect is not the same as what a store would expect. So I like a lot of communication. I like a lot of, hey, this sold, can you bring more? Like, hey, I just want to let you know we only have one more item left. I like that type of communication. I've learned that communication is not the case at most of the stores. It's like, you'll ask them, do you need anything? They'll say, no, not really. You go to the store and then somebody will say, oh, we have none of this, we have none of these. And I'm like, but I literally text y'all. Make it make sense. Like, come on guys, I can't read y'all's mind. So I think communication's really important, but I really think that if you want to do stores, really look at the big picture. My biggest regret, I feel like, I don't necessarily regret doing the stores. I feel like they were super beneficial. I learned a lot of stuff. I learned to deal with people, even if not that I have enough experience with that, but I definitely got to experience a different side of the business. But at the same time, I feel like the time that I spent and the stress and the hours I lost sleeping could have been better spent on just furthering my business. You know, making more things for markets, adding another market into it, painting safety eyes, creating patterns. Like, I feel like I could have been doing a lot with that extra time that I gave up to the stores, and ultimately I have not seen the return that I thought I would see. So I definitely think that if you're considering doing stores, really look at the whole factors, really have a heart-to-heart moment, figure out if you're willing to lose money, if you're fine losing money, all of those aspects. I feel like after that, once you find your answer, then you will know what to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informational for you. I get a lot of questions about this. And if you guys have any other questions or any other topics you would like to see me make a video on, please let me know. Your girl's a chatter yap box. She got a lot of information in this teeny tiny brain, and it might not 100% be correct, but she's willing to yap her mouth off. What can I say? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. Bye!